Hey Bulls, how are you doing today? Glad to see you joining us. What you're looking at here is not what we're working on today. At least, probably not. But I wanted to give you guys an idea of what the sort of Russian, well, it's not even sort of Russian. It is Russian faction. One of the Russian factions of Infinity. This being Ariadna. And this is the Ratnik sort of exo suit. The biggest model amongst those that come with the set, which I can't even think of the name of right now. Okay, I did remember it. I just thought I didn't remember it correctly. Operation Cold Front. But what we're working on for now, though I can't say for sure we won't get to him, but what we're working on today, I'm going to do some touching, some touches, final touches on these guys, the Dakini TAC bots. And then once they're done, we're going to work a bit on this guy. Now, normally I don't bother disassembling a miniature to paint it, and this guy would normally not be any exception, except his arm fell off while I was painting him, so I just thought, what the heck, I'll go ahead and finish some of the things I gotta paint, and then I'll put his arm back on. So, normally I would just paint him fully assembled, but okay, so this one is basically done. I'm going to add a few little highlights. Not really highlights per se, because he's already got his brightest highlights. But I want this to have a little bit better transition. Alright, so what I did was I just added some transitions here. I have to turn down the music just a little bit. So let me make sure that I got the best possible zoom, or focus rather. Okay, so what I did here was I added some slight transitions from dark to light and gave it some directionality. I just kind of arbitrarily chose for it to go lighter towards the top. But in a way it's not entirely arbitrary, because if you look at the helmet, it goes from light to dark going upward, and this goes from dark to light going upward. So they kind of converge towards where we want the focus on the model. Not entirely deliberate, but in some ways it kind of is, because there's kind of a natural inclination to just do that, but at the same time I could have just entirely arrived at my conclusion to do that on accident. Anyway, whenever you have these kind of transitions, you definitely want to have very stark highlights on the edges. No half-hearted highlights, because they'll not do the job. So these kind of transitions, they're actually not as hard as they look. They just take a little bit more time. And the difference they make in terms of appearance is huge. Look at the way he looks now versus with just the base color on. And just look how much more depth he appears to have, how much more alive it really looks. You know, I mean, this one, the helmet and chest piece really grab your attention. And an otherwise, you know, very dark model that doesn't, you know, have any other components that really just stand out on their own. Particularly the way that we painted it. I mean, we obviously went the very easy path of, you know, painting it almost entirely metallic. And then we get to these few details, just a few minor details, but by putting a little bit of work into those details, you can really change the end result of the whole model quite drastically, actually. Now, this one still has the non-helmet pink stuff that needs to be highlighted. All the transitions for the chest piece are done, so we can move on to the highlights. As always, everyone, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Don't be shy whatsoever. If you want to know how I did something, I don't keep any secrets. So just ask away. If you want to know what colors I used, what general approach I'm using to something. This stream is all about sharing knowledge, so if you want knowledge, just ask, and if you have knowledge to share, you're not going to embarrass me by sharing something, you know, painting related. There are some other things you might embarrass me by sharing, but And don't be afraid to ask something if you're from a country that doesn't speak English a whole lot and you're not that confident in your English. Don't worry, just ask the question, and we'll figure it out. Alright. That one actually normally would not take that long, but it's just hard to get to. Now these we're not going to quite worry about anything that crazy because they're just too small. By the way, I'm sure somebody's going to be curious about the metallic paint we used for this. It's 3D Glasses by Turbogort. Oh, hold on. Ugh. Which, if you decide to get and decide that this is the kind of paint you want for a particular look you're looking for, I do recommend that you use it through an airbrush. Certainly much easier to use that way, and may even come out looking a little bit different if you try to do it by hand with just a brush. And I definitely recommend putting it over black. A very solid coat of black. You don't want any gaps or anything because this paint does not cover that up. And let me say again, if there are any gaps in your black priming or anything like that, whether you brush it on or prime it, this stuff will not cover it up, the 3D glasses paint. So what I recommend is black priming it as usual, and then just go back with either a brush-on primer or just like a black paint that's intended for like base coating, and just go over any of the like nooks and crannies that might have been missed when you were airbrushing on. Not when you were airbrushing, sorry, when you were spraying on the primer before you start airbrushing the metallic. And it also applies if you're brushing it on. Brushing it on will not cover up those areas either. However, if you already have them, if you've already airbrushed it and you've noticed suddenly that you have some areas that don't have coverage, like they're either chipped or they just didn't get covered and you just kind of had an oversight, you can put on the black paint and then brush by hand over it in that one spot, and that'll totally work. You can also, as an expedient, you can take some of the Turbo Dork paint and you can mix a little bit of black in with it and paint that directly onto those areas, and that can kind of give you a little bit of a head start on getting the metallic paint on. But either approach works fine. Alright, so now he is done. And there's just one thing I wanted to do on this guy, because I think I didn't really do enough dry brushing on his top. So for those who might be wondering exactly the process I used for the metallic part, I of course airbrushed him with 3D glasses. Then I washed him with Nuln Oil. And then I went and touched up any place that I thought needed touching up with the original 3D glasses, just with a brush. But only like really egregious areas. And then I very lightly dry brushed on some Runefang steel, just to give him some, highlights in the major sharp areas, and a little bit in the curvatures. And if any of it ended up coming out just a little bit grainy, you can just take the Turbo Dork and just gradually brush on a few layers, just regular with a brush, not dry brushing or anything. This stuff does not really dry brush as far as I can tell. And that should alleviate any of the graininess gradually. You don't want to do too much because it can change the color if you do it too much. But it shouldn't take much. So, anyway, let's get this guy's magenta/pink parts painted. So far we're 24 minutes in and nobody said a word. How are we doing tonight out there, guys? Are you guys all right? I know some of you probably like at work just chilling and you got this on in the background, and that's totally cool. I'm totally got no problem with lurkers whatsoever. But at the same time, if you feel like asking a question or just talking, chatting, whatever, feel free. Not bothering me one bit. I always enjoy some stimulating conversation, and it always gives me something to talk about besides, just giving you the, football announcer style play-by-play. Well, folks, he's applying the dark pink right now to the knee. Well, sort of the shin, yeah, Bob. Yeah, it's definitely the shin. I've got to agree. It's just a little too low to be the knee. So yeah, play-by-plays like that. I don't know. Maybe my stream would be more interesting if I just like narrated my stream in the role of a sportscaster. It's certainly got to be a novel approach, but you can see, just like picking out a few little elements here with a complementary color to this metallic color, you can really get some elements that just really stand out very nicely and make an otherwise sort of monolithically colored model look actually very interesting. And I think people underestimate just how crucial it is to accomplish that. And you can afford then to have sometimes, kind of boring elements, like the way I painted this gun. Not really exciting at all. It's just kind of there, and it's silver. It's got shading and highlights. Yeah, sure, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't stand out as anything particular on its own, and that's actually kind of what I'm going for. I kind of want the gun to just be there, not looking bad, nor attracting a whole lot of attention. Alright, so now we want to highlight the helmet. We're pulling our color down. This color actually contrasts a little too much with the base in a way that we can't just... I mean, you can probably just blend from one to the other, but it will take a while. And we don't want to spend that much time working on it. So what we do is we mix a little bit of both together. And work into a little transition with that. And then, as they say, if it looks like a smooth transition, it is a smooth transition. Hey, what's going on, Katie Lynch? How you been? Oh, just keeping myself busy, work, and finally got my the last of my medical school application stuff done. So now it's all about um, getting interviews at schools and doing that. So I'm looking forward to moving on to the next phase, so to speak. Oh, thanks, Katie. I appreciate it. Yep, I wouldn't mind a little luck. It'll certainly come in handy. Yes, this is what you see here. The predominant metallic color on this model is Turbo Dork's 3D Glasses paint. You can see the color on the label is the one you should go by, not the bottle per se. Yeah, these paints are just a little unusual in that respect. Definitely, definitely for primarily airbrush use. Not exclusively, but primarily. By the way, KD, if you wanted to get the entire Turbo Dork paint range, it does come in a bit pricey. I don't remember exactly how much they are each, but they are not cheap. So I got them promotionally, so you know I can't really complain about the price myself, but oh yeah, yeah, they have a lot of neat colors. Like there's one I really want to try out. I have it, but I haven't found the right project yet to try it on. It's sort of a mother of pearlish color, and I'm very curious about what I can accomplish, what I can do with that. It's gonna be some neat stuff, though. Yeah, it is pretty good. P3 Reaper Vallejo scale and 75, or was it 75, 76? I can't remember what it was. And then secret weapon, huh? But not Citadel? I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think Citadel's the end-all be-all, but they certainly make some good paints worth having. Yeah, I only have a few of their paints. I haven't really gotten too much of their stuff yet, but I mean, the stuff I have gotten, though, it's pretty good. Well, 30 plus years ago, I mean, they were like the company that made those is still around making their own line of paints. It's actually the exact same line as Citadel paints were 30 years ago. They're just not labeled for Citadel anymore. They're just not like licensed through them anymore. Yeah, like their stuff now is actually a lot better. Their bottles are improved, not amazing, but improved. So you can see here, like this pink I'm putting on right now is a couple of Citadel colors. Yeah, the only way to get some of those old colors is to go through the old, I can't remember what they're called. I have a few of their paints that they've made more recently that are, I mean, they're not new paints by any means. They're the same old GW ones, but they're just, you know, made recently. But I swear, like, you know, I could pull out some of those old paints that I had in those bottles, and they'd probably still be good. Because the caps in those bottles, I mean, like, the whole thing that holds them on would, you know, break off in no time, and they were kind of tough to open after a while, but the paint inside them just like lasted forever. Oh man, yeah, Ral Partha, that's a blast from the past. Yeah, I kind of miss old Ral Partha. But you know, I was originally a GW modeler, so you know, there was a phase I had, you know, sort of like for most people, It started with GW, where everything is Citadel in the beginning, and you slowly find your way into other paints. It's when I started doing Flames of War that I started, messing around Vallejo colors and learning, how they were different, what they were good at. And of course P3. P3 is great for a lot of stuff too. Oh, actually, Vallejo still has a lot of, strange paints like, this might sound funny to some of you, but I know Yellowstone, is that what it's called? It actually tastes really weird, but not bad. It's not Yellowstone. What is it called? Sort of like what Vallejo recommended to use for Dunkelgelb. I don't really think it's a great color for Dunkelgelb, honestly, but Middlestone is what it's called. That's right, Middlestone. Now I remember. Alright. I added those little highlights to the back of this part of his helmet. I'm going to do that with the others. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, they originally... They were a much smaller operation at one point, and I never expected them to get as big as they did, and I got into it sort of in the late 90s. And they really were starting to pick up steam at that point, but not nearly like they are now. I think they'd probably freak out if they saw how much things had changed. I remember playing 2nd edition 40K, and we were just happy that, when we could get a hold of metal miniatures that weren't single pose, like all of the plastics were. And then, in the very late 90s, early 2000s, they started coming out with multi-part, sort of modular plastic kits. We were just freaking out. It's totally different. Alright, well, there's the Dakini TAC bots, other than figuring out a basing scheme I like for them. There they are, the trio. Second edition plastic orcs were not. They were single pose, the ones that came with the box set. It was sort of earlier mid-3rd edition when they came out with the multi-part, multi-pose plastics, which they still use now. They're the exact same ones now. But back then, all the orcs were basically the same goth orc in the same pose, unless you bought the metal ones. But I mean, the new plastic orcs at least that were new at the time. They're pretty old now, but they've held up pretty well. Yeah, body, legs, torso, heads. Yeah, and they're all plastic, right? Yeah, those are... I think those came out in like 1999, maybe 2000. But that was already in 3rd edition by then. Alright, let's keep working on this guy. So, as he's not a robot, he's, you know, he's got metal stuff on him, but he's mostly cloth. He's going to be a little bit different. But if you can tell, where he does have metal parts, which is like a lot on his legs and arms, it is using, once again, the 3D glasses. And we do need to paint his strapping and stuff like that, but we'll be hitting that up closer to the end. Which isn't actually all that far from now. We just got to do all of his pink stuff first. As you can see, I've already done quite a bit of the pink on his back already. So you just got to get the front and this arm. The other arm's basically done. And then these random places on his legs that have cloth showing through, which I still need to base coat a lot of it so that it can be identified. Huh. Yeah, I don't know if there were any like multi-part plastic kits for orcs before then. There weren't just like the Goth orcs that came with the second edition box that all had the same pose, with all the Gretchens that had the same pose. Those are the only ones I knew about. But back then, like, all their plastics were single pose. Yeah, yeah, and the funny helmets. Yeah, because you could swivel the arm up and down, but when they already looked that similar to each other, there really wasn't a whole lot of point to doing that. Sound a lot like the metal ones. Because their metal ones usually had like a metal torso with then like plastic arms and, you know, weapons and such that you could attach to them. And then like the bikers and some of the vehicles were all plastic back then. Or at least were mostly plastic. But they didn't have much variation to them either. Till Gorka Morka came out and added some like metal parts to them. Oh, Hero Quest? Yeah. That was like the first thing I experimented on to paint my models. I think that's a lot what a lot of people did back then to first experiment with painting Citadel minis. Was they just like painted their Hero Quest set. Wow, yeah, that was way back. I don't even know if they were doing any plastics at that point. like back that far, I think they might have still been 100% metal casting back then. In fact, I think it was still Rogue Trader, wasn't it? Yeah, I didn't play Rogue Trader. I started in second, like late second. But I have some friends who still have their copies of Rogue Trader. Alright, I'm gonna have to add some more paint to my palette. Of course, the first one I wanted to try to do was Epic 40K, which was just around the horizon when I was getting started. But they never really fully supported that game, so unfortunately it died out kind of quickly. Because getting the metal minis that you needed was super expensive. And even when you did it, like, you could never find anyone else who was willing to make that investment. Well, yeah, Epic 40K though was the redo of the original Epic. Before then, it was called, God, what was it called? It was like Epic Space Marine, I think, is what it was called originally. And then before that, I think, was the old Adeptus Titanicus. Now, Epic 40K Orcs were all plastic. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it was Epic Space Marine. see what we got here for strapping. I want something. I'm going to use some Incubi Darkness. I think I'm doing this part wrong, though. I think this is... Yeah, I don't think these are straps. Because the way I look at this comes down. This is part of his shirt. Yeah. Alright. We're going to change this up then. Alright guys, it's halfway through the stream. I just need to take a quick break. Let's see if I can put these down here in a way that you can at least see them while I'm taking that break. Whoa, why did it get so bright all of a sudden? I don't... Okay, so it stays that way for a little while. Alright, so I'll keep the music running and I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, and we're back. Now I'm glad to see that the camera didn't white out again. Because that would be kind of lame. Alright. So a little bit lower. Alright. everything there. God. I'm gonna make a real mess if I'm not better at putting this back together. Alright, there we go. Oh, that is a disaster. Oh. Pure unmitigated disaster. Yep. That's why you assemble the model first. I don't even know where this glue came from. It's like I barely put any on there. Alright, well. That's gonna be a pain. It's gonna be a pain to fix. Not impossible though. Alright, but before we can actually fix it, I'm gonna have to wait for the glue to actually dry. So if I don't, could end up ruining a brush while fixing it. So, yeah, that just happened. So while we wait for that to get fixed, we'll, or at least wait for it to dry so I can fix it. We'll do a little bit of work on this guy, the big mech from the other faction that comes with the Cold Front box set. That's a thing Infinity's been doing lately, is coming out with box sets with 2 different factions in them, in each box. Sort of a starter force for each faction. But as starter forces go, it's actually pretty good because it gives you probably 60-70% of what you need to field a whole force. At the sort of like what's considered tournament competitive level for Infinity. Which, as we know, for 40k, it's like 40 or 50 models, depending on faction, sometimes way more. Or, you know, like 10 Grey Knights or 5 Custodes, but those are definitely outliers. Oh yeah, I think it's a pretty cool model, KD. Yeah, it's got to figure out which direction I'm taking everything, but like I know I'm keeping the green, know how I'm doing the metal, I know the red parts are going to stay red. The visor is going to be a different red. It's still going to have the same base color for red. And so it's just figuring out how I want to do the camouflage, you know, pattern. Adding on the brown. And ultimately how things will get like shaded and highlighted. Oh, okay. What scale is that? Is that also like 28 mil or? Marketing stickers. So you should be selling Pepsi, like renting space on his chassis. I actually don't know if you can because this is not actually my channel in terms of ownership. I just log into it to stream for bowls. I don't actually know what the rules are regarding links. So they probably already have them pre-blocked because they're generally pretty careful. Yeah, I figured. Like, it didn't even give me a prompt, like, whether or not to let you post it. It just automatically denied it, so... yeah, it's just part of their default settings. But, I mean, it's something that's pretty easy to Google, I'm sure. Much larger scale? What do you mean? Like, he works on bigger than 28 mil, or what? Or you mean he just paints, like, a whole lot of them? Wow. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, to do that with these guys, though, you'd have to have some pretty tiny decals, because this guy's way too few, like, flat surfaces where you could put something like that on, unless it was super tiny. It'd still be easy to put on as a decal, but it's just hard to find decals like that. So I do like putting decals on and weathering them on small scale models. I usually do it with like Flames of War stuff, like unit markings and such. Even made a tutorial video for it once on Bell of Lost Souls, but it's like ancient now. I don't even know if it's still in their archive or not. Yeah, from a couple of feet away at this scale, it would be like, it would probably actually look weird. But depending on how you did it. At the same time, like a couple of, decals in the sky wouldn't be bad. As long as they're placed properly. Not necessarily advertisements, but like unit insignia and such. Yeah, I mean, like a bunch of advertising stickers on a piece of military hardware, just kind of, in this kind of way, personifies the dystopian future that we can all look forward to. It'll be the idiocracy where we have cruise missiles with brought to you by Carl's Jr. Written on the side. Alright. Hello, the Space Bee. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before. Alright, let's see if our guy is ready to be fixed. It looks like he has like a really shiny band on his shoulder. If it were only so. Alright. I just want to find the places where it's going to be hardest for us to blend in the repair. Oh yeah. Having some fun with it. And, you know, got the Dakini tack bots ready to go. But, working on the first of the more humanoid models. Obviously takes a little bit more work than the Dakinis did. They were pretty easy. Yes, that's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what I thought when I saw this model and read its description. Like, I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought of that. It's like, yes, the totally not Adam Jensen. Like, I was almost tempted to like paint him in those exact colors, like from Deus Ex, because of that. But I thought, you know what, I'll make him a little bit different, make sure he matches like the rest of the gang, you know. But at the same time, he's still like, yeah, totally 100% Adam Jensen. Like, even his description, like, you know, as a Shukra consultant, like, what he does, it's exactly the same. Unfortunately, we had a little accident while getting his arm reattached. And now we're trying to make sure that we can seamlessly repaint this shoulder without it being obvious that all the paint on it had once been removed. Which, if you ever had to do this, it's not as easy as it sounds. U.S. Ariadne. Oh, yeah. Themed around XCOM, so, like, I don't know, just... I mean, XCOM's kind of, you know, lets you kind of go with whatever color scheme you want. Oh, plaid. No, I mean, I'm not going to stray too far from convention with my Ariadne guys. I mean, you saw the mech and the cloth for the, like, Lion Kazakhs and all those guys is going to be the same green color, you know. I haven't decided how I'm going to do the brown camo yet. I thought about, like, trying something, like, really crazy, like the pixelated patterns that you see in some modern stuff nowadays, but like the shapes they have and all of that, they don't really lend themselves well to it. I would have to do it really tiny for it to show up, and just don't really feel like spending that much time on them. Still haven't figured out or decided really like what color I want to do this guy's eyes in. I just want to go with conventional or something glowy. I mean, I could even just leave them black sockets, right, like they are right now, and of course nobody really notice any difference on the tabletop, but I'm thinking about it. I just don't know what color glow I would use. Like if I just go with the same like pink color. So as not to screw up the vibe. Or what? Hmm. You'll have to consider that, the lightning blue or something. I don't know though, the lightning blue doesn't really have like a... it might. Against the color of the face it might have a strong contrast, but... so maybe. he's coming along pretty nicely. In fact, his peak is getting close to done, and then it's just the rest of the... Some of you probably saw how I did the black straps a minute ago. We're just going to continue that exact same thing for these. Alright guys, it's almost 5:30 and I'm going to have to go early today. We usually stay till 6, but today we got to part just a tad early. But I will let you get one more look at what we've been working on and try to get the light adjusted properly. I don't know why it likes to, maybe because I'm doing that. Aha! Alright. So yeah, we got the tack bots done, and we're most of the way through Totally Not Jensen. Yeah, that's what I'm working on, B. You know, I'm thinking about maybe just putting a few like little clutter items in there and maybe making it mostly white. I'm still not sure. I don't know. I'm still brainstorming that. So yeah, I haven't really come up with a solid idea yet that I know I'm going to go with. So I'm going to try to go with something simple and not complicated, not too cluttered, but you know, because I want it to look like they're standing on something artificial, because I think it goes better with their sort of futuristic look. Whereas the Ariadne guy, I think these guys are going to be on like, you know, oh crap, they're going to be on like a jungle terrain base or something like that. You know, something that, you know, shows them trudging through nature. But the Aleph guys are definitely going to be on some kind of artificial, you know, man-made hard surface. So, yeah. I'm just still thinking about what I'm going to do to accomplish it, though. Well, guys, thanks for joining today, and I didn't realize that GoatBoy had been gone for a little while, hadn't been doing painting streaming for a few weeks, but he is going to be back tonight. So if you guys want to check him out, he will be here on this same stream in 2.5 hours at 8 p.m. Central Time. So you should check him out. I know a few people who can paint an army as fast as him. He is super fast, but he has a great grasp of color theory, so you could give him a set of basic paints and a box of Q-tips, and he will paint you a nice looking army in a matter of hours. So check him out, and also he's hilarious, so in any case you will definitely get a good amount of entertainment out of him. So that's all I got. Best of luck on all of your projects that you have in this upcoming week. Check us out again at 3 p.m. Central Time next Wednesday. And, yeah, take care. Have a good one.